branch chief for our Habitat Conservation Planning branch, and we have other folks from the department here. We've got Craig Marks, Wendy Bogdan, we've got Stephen Escobar, and Juan Torres. And in the back of the room, you probably saw some other folks, but Ryan Mathis is back there, Margaret Mantor, and Kathy Buchelis is also joining us today. If you haven't signed in already, I encourage you to sign in at the back of the room. And if you would like to be a speaker and you haven't filled out a speaker card, please do so and make sure that Juan gets a copy of his speaker card. This is the last day of the public comment period, so it ends today at the end of this meeting. If you don't want to speak, you can write written comments and we can collect those at the end of the meeting as you do. In terms of the process for this meeting and the purpose of this meeting, we're holding this meeting under the Administrative Procedure Act to take public comment regarding the proposed adoption of the existing regulatory definition of suction dredging. And that definition is part of Title 14, Section 228, Subdivision A, and it's suction dredging. For purposes of this section and Section 228.5, the use of any vacuum or suction dredge equipment, i.e. suction dredging, is defined as the use of a suction system to vacuum material from a river, stream, or lake for the extraction of minerals. These regulations do not apply to, prohibit, or restrict non-motorized recreational mining activities, including panning for gold. That definition, adopted by CDFW last summer as an emergency regulation, is still in effect. And as I mentioned, it's in Title 14, Section 228A. The department will be preparing written responses to public comments regarding this rulemaking. The responses will be submitted to the Office of Administrative Law as part of the official record of proceedings should CDFW adopt the definition as proposed. The department expects to make a final decision regarding the proposed definition in the next few weeks. So I know that we changed the schedule, and we really do appreciate your patience as we rescheduled the meeting. What happened was that in order to comply with the Administrative Procedure Act, we had to schedule the hearing at least 45 days after the proposed regulatory action was published in the California Regulatory Notice Register. The original date would not have met the 45-day requirement, and the Office of Administrative Law advised us to reschedule the hearing to today. So we appreciate your patience on that, and we're glad to have you all here. And once again, today is the last day of the 45-day public comment period under the Administrative Procedure Act. So in terms of this meeting, we are recording this meeting and we're also taking notes. So when you're called to the podium, which is, you come to this podium here, please state your name before you begin, and please make sure the audience can hear you. So, can you all hear me?
Oh yeah.
Good, thanks. Commenters will have 3 minutes. And we expect the commenters and members of the public, members of the audience, to be professional and courteous and to respect individual speakers. We will not tolerate disruptive or disrespectful behavior, and individuals may be asked to leave the auditorium if they are disruptive or disrespectful. So with that, we can take the first commenter.
Mr. Robert Jan.
Please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Robert Yellin. I'm from Napa. I'm 70 years old, and for the last 3 or 4 years I haven't dredged. For those people who have time limits like I do, I'm no longer going to be dredging in my 80s, so I have a timeline to myself. I've noticed that you've never mentioned the word date. We are looking for a date that we could start or have some kind of closure to this farce that I consider. The lawyers and the environmentalists have, I think you use the right word, jerked us around long enough that we should have some kind of finalization on this. I also think that all we need is some rules to work by. We're not asking for any big changes, just some rules to work by and a starting period. My claim happens to be at 4,200 feet on West Nelson. That hasn't seen a salmon or mercury or anything else. Using a club and through the state, closing all these rivers has just been totally wrong. If you want to close a system for the trout and stuff like that, I haven't heard anybody against that. But statewide, it's ridiculous. Once there's a dam, there is no way salmon, trout, or anything else are going to go above a dam. Maybe one of the suggestions that I have is anything above a dam should be free and have a due date for us. Thank you.
Shannon Poe.
I'm gonna spit out my gum, that's just very disrespectful. Well, I want to thank you guys these guys especially, for coming today. My name is Shannon Poe. I'm the president of the American Mining Rights Association, AMRA. And like I was telling Craig, and I appreciate you talking with me earlier, Helen. Haven't met you before or any of the other people. But I just want to state that we've got several of these folks that have signed up today to speak that are going to donate their time to me. So if I could just kind of go uninterrupted would be, I think, very good. So anyway, as I said, I'm the president of American Mining Rights Association, but I'm also a miner. And I've been a professional miner in the state of California for the last 9 years. I own 5 dredges. I have over $130,000 invested in mining equipment alone. It's how I make my living. It's how I feed my family. It's how I pay my bills. The moratorium, back when it first started, I came here and met with Mark Stover and sat in his office for 2 hours and we talked about that. And he was very supportive of it. And I don't know what's changed since then, but you know, I mentioned to both of you guys, my father worked for Department of Fish and Game for 30 years and he was very proud of that agency. And of course he follows what I do now in creating this business to fight for these people's rights. And I got to admit, he's embarrassed. The things that are happening with the Department of Fish and Game and the things that they're doing to the small mining community is absolutely atrocious. And he's embarrassed by it. The one thing that I wanted to mention here is that if you take the investment that just I have, and I'm not counting what these people have as far as mining goes, that's not recreational by any means. That's somebody that does it for a profession. I'm good at what I do. I get a lot of gold. We try to educate other folks on how to obtain the most gold. It's absolutely not recreational. The question that I have is that the people that are deciding all of these things and that work for the Department of Fish and Game, have any of you guys ever dredged before?
I have not.
Okay. You know, as public servants, I think that it's absolutely crucial. And Helen, I appreciate you handing me their mission statement. I want to read that because it really comes into play here. The mission statement of the Department of Fish and Wildlife is to manage California's diverse fish, wildlife, and plant resources, and the habitats which they depend for their ecological values and for their use and enjoyment by the public. We're talking about public lands that people have validly filed mining claims on. And Mr. Young here, who I've never met before, is a prime example of that. He just wants to go up to his claim and dredge. I'm sure he supplements his income by doing that. And these atrocious things that are going on here, it really seems to me that the DFG is almost becoming an arm of the environmental movement, because I want to read some things here, and this is just a small sample of the beneficial impacts, or actually the environmental impact studies that have been done on suction dredging. Results from the 1992 Chugach National Forest in Alaska Report of Water Quality, Cumulative Effects of Placer Mining. This form of mining has less than significant effect on the environment. That's 92. 1997, Department of Fish and Game, California. You guys are aware of this. It cost us millions of dollars in taxpayer money to pay for this report. They did the same thing, another placer dredge study. This form of mining had a less than significant effect on the environment. Results from the 1999 U.S. Environmental Protection Agency funded impact of suction dredging on water quality. This is in the benthic habitat on the 40 Mile River in Alaska. This form of mining had a less than significant impact on the environment. Bailey, 2003, Siskiyou National Forest in Oregon, same thing. In this one actually came out cumulative suction dredge mining was found to be non-significant. Results from the 2001 Siskiyou National Forest Oregon Draft Environmental Impact Report, less than significant. 2004 Clearwater National Forest, where we just picked up a claim and plan to dredge there next month, less than significant. 2011 EPA, less than significant. Wallowa Whitman National Forest, less than significant. 2012, your study, this is the second one funded by the taxpayer, less than significant. I could go on and on, guys. I've got pages of this stuff. Every single study that is out there to show that it has little or no impact on fish habitat, period. So I don't understand why this big push, and I know we're not here to debate the regulations that are going to be put out. That's for another day that we'll be back for. But I think Einstein really keyed something. He made a statement a long time ago that's really apropos here, and that is that doing the same thing over and over again is the very definition of insanity. It seems like every single time somebody raises, especially environmental groups, they raise their arms up saying, oh, they kill fish, they kill salmon. Well, the proof in the science, peer review, everything is there. All of the facts are there. So I don't understand why we keep spending taxpayer money and we're penalizing a group of individuals for a political agenda. That doesn't make sense. That kind of brings me to the mercury and lead. Is mercury and lead, yes, unfortunately the 1850s, 1860s, 70s, and 80s, they used a lot of mercury back then. We agree that mercury is toxic. A suction dredge, a Proline 4-inch, Proline 6-inch, Keen 4-inch, removes 98% of the mercury. I can show you the studies, I have them here. So we remove 100% of the lead. We remove 98% of the mercury in the rivers. It doesn't hurt the fish. In fact, there's numerous studies on this that show that we actually create fish habitat. So I don't understand why we're being penalized and we're not being allowed to dredge, because we're cleaning the environment, we're removing the toxins. It's been studied by numerous ecologists and biologists and scientists and everybody else. And it just doesn't make any sense. So I guess I have a question for you guys here is, Helen was reading kind of what this is about, and Sierra Fund, which is a far left environmental group, was granted a $1.4 million taxpayer money funded grant to take a cutter dredge into Lake Combi. And they're operating in Lake Combi. A cutter dredge isn't a suction dredge. It doesn't suck up the stuff that's in the cracks in the bedrock, which is what a suction dredge does. That's where we remove all of the mercury, because it's such a heavy element, it settles into those cracks. A cutter dredge has got a big cutter head on it, and it just bounces across that bedrock. But they're getting $1.4 million of taxpayer money to go up and dredge under the guise of mercury remediation, yet we can't dredge at all. Their dredge removes 85% of the mercury, but they're being allowed to dredge. So is that something that you guys would just grant us a permit? I mean, is it something, have you granted them a permit to run the cutter dredge?
Well, I'll take a crack at answering that.
Okay.
But, I mean, I'm not familiar with the Lake Combi example that you just gave, but as far as using a suction dredge to remove mercury or minerals from the stream bed, the statewide moratorium, prevents that. We can't issue a permit.
So we can create, if I understand, and I'm not trying to be argumentative
No,
here,
no.
Craig, at all. It's just we're trying to get to the bottom of this. So if John and I, three Johns, if we create this new type of a dredge system that just basically tears up the soil and rips up the ground, but it doesn't suck it up like a giant bucket line dredge that is very destructive to the environment, that's going to be legal. You see the hypocrisy in that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And not only that, to give these guys $1.4 million of taxpayer money to go out and dredge, when they actually are saying that they're going to throw the gold back because it's not a contaminant. I don't buy that for a minute. So in closing, I just want to go over this. It's a fact that it really seems like you guys are really favoring the environmental movement, and every time they scream, and maybe they have a louder voice than us, I don't know. But the one thing that we do have on our side is we have laws, and we have a constitution, and we have fundamental basic rights as American citizens and as citizens of the state of California, and we're going to exercise those rights. Even this emergency ruling, by definition, would not hold up weight in court, and I think that we all know that. We're not going to spend the money to go and challenge that because it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. I think that with the case that's going to happen, the mediation on the 24th is going to go definitely in the favor of the miners, and we're going to be back in the water shortly. So I just want to, in closing, say this. AMRA and the people that we represent, and we represent tens of thousands of people in the state of California, and we represent hundreds of thousands of people across the country. We're a national organization. We vehemently oppose the so-called emergency language. We also oppose the term recreational miner, and we will pursue not just legal action against the DFG for blatant violations of people's rights if this stuff continues, but civil suits. And what I mean by that is the individuals that make these decisions that are violating individual civil rights, we will pursue that from a legal channel, whether that means class action lawsuits or individual lawsuits against entities. And again, guys, it's not a personal thing between you and I. It's just, it's time that this agency starts doing the things that it was paid for. We pay your salaries. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Rick Sofa, I don't know if you want to speak.
I donated my time to Mr. Cohn.
Mr. Ronald Powers?
I'm not going to speak.
He donated his time.
Okay. Mr. Paul Colton?
Colton, I donate my time to
Mr. John Dudley?
That's me. I'll make a quick brief statement. It's kind of like what Mr. Poe was saying about, you're not just hurting us miners, you're hurting the communities that are getting money from us buying fuel and food from their establishments, lodging, even parks and recreation, where we pay for camping. It's just so far outreaching, but yet EPA wants just to say, oh, it's bad for everything. Get the heck out of the water. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ms. Nina Nesick?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. Please, squish your foot.
Hi, my name is Nina Kanesic, and I'm a California resident, California native, 11th generation in California, since before it was ever a state. My great-great-grandparents mined in this statehood, and I'm appalled by the fact that these men who need to mine as a living are unable to do so, and yet other things just go by the railways. I mean, you guys, a lot of things get swept under the carpet. I do want you to know one of the big benefits of these miners. And I am a miner, I'm disabled, but I am a miner. Not by recreation, by need. I want you to know that while people are up there trying to mine and trying to make a living, nobody talks about all the trash that we clean up out of the rivers, that we haul at our own cost to the dumps, the bumpers, the tires, the bottles, the cans, dead fish on the bank. They're not from us, they're from fishermen, okay? I also want to talk about the campgrounds, the public land that we can no longer access. But when we can get in there, what do we find? We find trash from campers that have not been picked up. The miners are in there cleaning all this up. So I just want you to know that we may mine, but we clean up and we replace, and we're putting everything back that we take out because we want Mother Nature to continue with her beauty. Thank you.
Mr. Dave Crawford.
My name is Dave Crawford, Sacramento, California. I've been prospecting for about 3 years. What I do mainly is called sniping. And what sniping is I have a full Wetsuit mask snorkel, and I get in the water about 2 to 3 feet deep or less. And I move the rocks, which these guys all know. And I'll have some tools with me for digging and stuff like that. And I'll clean out cracks of the bedrock to get to where the gold is. That's what I do mainly. I brought 2 pictures. This is my friend's dredge. This is on the Yuba River. And this was 5 miles downstream from Highway 49 after you go through Nevada City, where it's like a horseshoe, but it's 5 miles down. And I'll give you that. You can keep these.
Thank you.
And they say that causes damage to the river. This is 5 miles up. Now to create this, I need a 10-foot suction nozzle. And they say this does not cause damage to the river. And that you can so, to me, the runoff on that dredge is clear as can be. The runoff there, you see how bad it is.
Could you describe what's in the photo?
It is the bridge right there, Highway 49. It's during the winter runoff. And 1 year, the winter runoff at that bridge went over the top of the bridge.
Right.
And they had to shut down Highway 49.
Okay.
But if you, I don't know, if you ever get a chance, go up to the Bear River, any of the Americans, the Yuba River during wintertime, and just stand there and listen. You'll hear car-sized boulders crashing into each other and just wreaking havoc all the way down the river. You don't want to even put your foot in there because you'll be dead for sure. But, you know, they say that that's not damaging the river, but my friend's dredge is. And that needs to change. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dylan Carson.
Right, my name is Dylan Carson from Roseville, California. I've been mining for a little while now. And, you know, our state is called the Golden State. It started because of miners. We're here because of miners. The whole rush. You know, this could still be a territory of Mexico. This is founded on gold. We all want gold. You know, it's a standard that we live by, it's a standard that we want. And the dredging is just a means of getting it. We aren't out there significantly damaging areas. We have no intention of damaging them because we want to fish. I don't know about everybody else here, but I have my fishing license because I go out there and fish at the same time I'm out there doing sluicing or anything else. You know, when water levels get down too low, I don't dredge. I'm going to sluice because I want to continue to do what I love doing. being out there in the environment, enjoying California, because that's what it's here for. I mean, the minute that we stop going out to these places, we're getting sedimentary. We're in cities dying, you know, breathing in the smog, everything else. Why shouldn't we be out there enjoying life? You know, and to come down to little nitpicking definitions and all these facts that are irrelevant. We need to be out there enjoying what's here for us. You know, we set aside Yosemite. Our president did, so we could enjoy it. So why can't we? Why do we have these laws that are hurting us time and time again? I spoke with a fish and game official, it's a friend of mine. He said that, you know, I have to enforce the law. So if you're out there dredging, I have to enforce the law. But he said that, you know what? If it was me out there and I caught you doing it, you know, there's a fine line in enforcing. I can just tell you to pick your stuff up and leave, because that's within the law. And that's what he would choose to do, given the circumstances of, he would rather be out there dredging himself. You know, he loves being out in the environment just as much as all the rest of us. So why, if your own people want to do this, are you stopping it from happening? Is it because of lawyers and environmentalists that don't actually know what's going on because you're not out there enjoying it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's asinine to think that we're out there hurting the environment. I'm sorry. I don't see anybody in here that's hurting the environment by going out there and dredging or sluicing or anything else. It's just out there to have fun and enjoy the environment, maybe make some money, be a miner. Heck, it could even be just trying it out, just to see if you want to do it. And okay, if you leave instead, you want to go mountain biking instead, or you want to do something else, go and enjoy California. But dredging is one of those alternatives that shouldn't be taken away from us. We should have the right to do it, because it's part of our freedoms. You know, it's public land. It's for all of us. Everybody in this room is part of the public.
You've exceeded your time.
Mr. Edward Kensek,
I had my minutes for Mr. O.
Mr. David Chapman,
Yeah, I'll speak. How you guys doing today? I'm going to apologize if I slur my speech a little bit. I had to have my tooth drilled just to get an excuse to go out of work. So, feel a little numb and tingly. But anyways, thanks for giving us an opportunity to voice our thoughts here. You know, I'm a recreational gold miner. My name is David Chaplin. I'm a 7th generation Californian. My great-great-great-grandfather came here from Canada and didn't make his living in gold mining, but he passed it down to subsequent generations. Sorry again. So for the last 160 years, my family has been living in California and prospering here. It's been a long-standing tradition of my family, passed from generation to generation, and in recent decades, my uncles have carried on the tradition, maintaining claims in buttes here in Nevada counties. They've legally owned and operated dredging operations on several rivers throughout these counties, and also hold down full-time jobs. So, you know, I'm a recreational gold miner, so is my family, so I apologize if I don't see the needs of those that are making a living doing it. But, you know, it's one of my favorite pastimes and one of my favorite things to do, and I think, you know, these guys have touched on the fact the state was founded on it, and we should be proud of it. I was taught by my uncles, and I've always looked forward to trips with them, going out camping, where my father and I would join them to go dredging. And for those of you who've never dredged for gold, let me try to explain the experience. You know, you gear up in really cool scuba gear. You know, you kind of feel like an astronaut about to take a spacewalk. You know, once you're connected to your air supply and you're kind of breathing like Darth Vader, you take the plunge and you drop into a weightless environment where you're surrounded by creatures that float around you, kind of peer at you with one eye. Everything's pretty amazing, and it's just an awesome, unique place to be, and it's really peaceful. You know, and then the treasure hunt begins. So it's just a lot of fun. It's healthy exercise, and no other method of gold recovery really compares to it. You know, I've done most of my dredging with dredges 4 inches or smaller, and personally I don't really feel that there's really any impact, because every time the winter runoff comes, everything that we've done that previous summer is wiped away completely, not a speck of evidence. You know, as these people say, they always pack out their trash as well. And you know, we are stewards of the environment. We spend more time in this environment than a lot of the people that have an opinion about it. And these, you know, every year, those of you who've ever stood near a river during flood days, it's scary, frankly. I mean, you can literally feel the ground thundering beneath you. So, you know, I please ask you, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You know, if the issue is salmon and salmon spawning, I did some research, and according to the EPA's National Water Quality Report to Congress in the year 2000, California was reported to have 513,000 miles of rivers and streams. Of that total, 438,000 miles of river are perennial or continuously flowing. And according to Fish and Game Code Section 1505, which clearly designates spawning zones within these rivers, only about 5% of that total perennial river system was actually defined in that. So if the issue is salmon spawning, I would be happy to compromise saying go ahead and set those rivers aside. We could dredge the other 95%. And I've provided a report with 20 copies for everybody. It also talks about economic impact. But at the end of the day, this is California's history, and it's an industry, and this economy's been suffering since 2008. So, so many small businesses, you know, local, state agencies that will lose revenue through lost sales tax, income tax, permits, fees associated with dredging. There's so much money to be lost for no reason, and we can find compromise. So maybe cut out that 5% of rivers, or maybe you restrict the dredge size, you know, because I'll tell you, a Florence dredge makes no difference every year when that flood runoff comes and blows everything out of the water. So, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I provided that just to show you. I got that in one summer, just a week of dredging. That's all I do really. And I pulled out lots of lead weight, chunks of old mining waste. And most of that old mining waste comes from not individual miners, but the corporations that came here from the East Coast after the gold rush and shoved all the people like us out of the area and destroyed this area and took off. And we're still cleaning up the mess. And I packed every little molecule of lead that had come out of that dredge, and we leave that place cleaner than we left it. Well, everybody I know does. So I appreciate your time.